Why did Ukraine stop attacking Crimea? What is behind this change in strategy? Let's analyze the crucial factors. Get ready for an in-depth analysis. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any details.
Lá combatentes do canal ARTE da Guerra. Conforme vocês podem ver nesse levantamento da Wikipedia, a guerra na Ucrânia começa em fevereiro de 2022 e a partir de
The war in Ukraine begins in February 2022, and from July, the Ukrainians start attacking Russian positions in Crimea, mainly some naval ones. However, in recent months, we have noticed a significant decrease in the intensity and number of Ukrainian attacks. And that's what we will assess in today's video, why these attacks have greatly diminished or almost stopped. But before getting to the reasons, we will first understand the importance of Crimea. Stay with us.
Nós vamos entender primeiro a importância da Crimeia. Acompanhe conosco. A Crimeia continua sendo ponto focal.
Crimea remains a focal point in the conflict. Its strategic and symbolic importance ensures that it will remain in the spotlight. Crimea is a region located in southern Ukraine, a peninsula that extends from north to south towards the Black Sea, and over the centuries it has been colonized by various peoples. It was incorporated into the Russian Empire in 1783, and during the Russian Revolution of 1917 became an autonomous republic. In 1954, it was transferred to the Soviet Republic of Ukraine. After the events of the overthrow of Viktor Yanukovych in 2014, Russia annexed Crimea. Thus, it is a highly contested region due to its strategic status.
Pela condição estratégica dela. Vamos dar uma olhada agora na condição estratégica da Crimeia.
Let's take a look now at the strategic condition of Crimea. Well, here you have the map of Europe, okay? Here is Ukraine, here is the Black Sea. And now let's take a closer look at Crimea itself. You have this entire peninsula here, okay? With extremely strategic bases, okay? Whoever occupies these bases provides excellent surveillance over the Black Sea. And I remember that Sevastopol was one of the most important cities that the Nazis managed to capture when they invaded the Soviet Union in 1941. NATO has always had a strong desire to establish bases either here in Crimea or in Georgia, precisely to have control and pressure the Russians over the Black Sea. Having said that, I think we've already contextualized quite a bit about the importance of Crimea. Folks, having understood the strategic importance of Crimea, we will start discussing the attacks themselves. Let's take a look at the methods employed by the Ukrainians and the Russian defenses. Follow along with us. Ukraine employed many GLSDB systems, which are those small diameter bombs launched from the ground through the HIMARS or MLRS system. They also used Storm Shadow missile systems, primarily targeting the naval base in Sevastopol. The Ukrainians also tried several times to disrupt the Crimean Bridge and the port of Sevastopol, as well as Russian air bases and many of Russia's weapons and fuel depots. However, we must remember that Russia has been expanding its defense systems over time to counter the weapons provided to the Ukrainians by NATO. Russia deployed various modern air defense systems to Crimea, and there are reports of an S-500 system placed to defend the region. But we need to remember that the Russian learning curve worked very well, and in the end, they had a good grasp of the performance of Ukrainian weapons. However, not everything was smooth sailing for Ukraine when it attacked Russian positions and other targets. To be fair, let's analyze the difficulties faced by the Ukrainians. Ukraine faces considerable logistical challenges to sustain long-range attacks. Missiles and drones need to be transported and maintained, which requires resources and infrastructure. Well, we need to remember that the arsenal Ukraine holds to this day is a true logistical nightmare. You see weapons from over 40 countries. Then you have the problem of maintenance, spare parts, personnel training, some more complex weapons for which you can't provide complete training to the personnel, and you need foreign technicians. and the risk for these technicians is very high.
E o risco para esses técnicos é muito alto. A própria movimentação desse material no campo de batalha para chegar.
The very movement of this material on the battlefield to reach firing positions is a complicated matter because Russian surveillance by satellites and other sensors is quite precise. In short, Ukraine has a lot of difficulty planning such an attack. We recently saw several Russian attacks against NATO military support positions, supporting Ukraine, where NATO military personnel were reportedly killed as well. So in fact, the difficulties of each attack are very significant logistically and politically for Ukraine. Now let's take a look at the impacts that all these Ukrainian attacks in Crimea have had. Follow along with us. Despite some initial successes, the Ukrainian attacks did not cause lasting strategic damage. Russia quickly repaired or replaced the damaged equipment,
ou substituiu os equipamentos danificados. A estratégica ponte da Crimea que liga a Crimea.
The strategic Crimean bridge, which connects Crimea to the mainland, that is, links the Crimean peninsula to the Russian coast on the Black Sea in an east-west direction, was targeted by several attacks from the Ukrainians in 2022 and 2023. However, it seems that Russia, even if sometimes more slowly, managed to rebuild the bridge. The bridge was not effectively destroyed, completely destroyed, which shows the solidity of its construction, and the Russians are able to keep it operating, thus maintaining the flow of supplies to the civilian population of Crimea, which is crucial for morale. Folks, now we move on to the more practical side of things, the political, diplomatic, and economic considerations around the world. Let's take a look at that, and then we'll return for some comments.
Vamos dar uma olhada nisso, depois a gente volta para alguns comentários. A Ucrânia enfrenta pressão.
Ukraine faces international pressure to avoid escalations that could lead to a broader conflict. Some Western allies fear that attacks on Crimea could provoke a disproportionate Russian response. Diplomacy and negotiations may be underway behind the scenes. Ukraine might be using the threat of attacks to gain concessions in other areas. Attacks on Crimea are costly and consume valuable resources. Ukraine needs to balance its military objectives with financial limitations. Sanctions against Russia and Western financial support are crucial for Ukraine. However, these resources are limited and need to be used strategically. Ukraine may change its strategy in the future, depending on conditions on the battlefield and international support.
No campo de batalha e do apoio internacional. Novas tecnologias e táticas podem ser.
New technologies and tactics can be employed. In summary, Ukraine's decision to stop attacking Crimea is influenced by military, political, and economic factors. Well, in a very simplified summary of the reduction of Ukrainian attacks against Crimea, we can state the following. Firstly, Russia is exerting pressure elsewhere, and Ukraine needs to mobilize resources for defense. Secondly, as mentioned here, there are various logistical and operational challenges for Ukraine in effectively carrying out deep and precise attacks, as are necessary against targets in Crimea. Another thing is that Ukraine prioritized other battlefronts, such as Kursk, for example. The necessity of attacking Kursk is quite debatable, but it was a decision made by the Ukrainian command. There is also diplomatic and political pressure in the sense that Russia could escalate the attacks. I remember that when there was that attack on a Crimean beach, the next day, or a week later, a few days later, an American diplomat was found dead in Kyiv. A high-ranking diplomat was found dead in his hotel in Kyiv. There is also the problem of the depletion of Ukrainian weapons. I need to point out that many of the weapons provided by the West, such as the Storm Shadow, are highly scarce in the stockpiles of the British armed forces. In summary, it wasn't just for a single reason that Ukraine reduced its attacks against Crimea. It was a combination of various factors that were explained in this video. Well, folks, that was our video for today. We will have much more about the war in Ukraine, the peace negotiations that seem to be in their early stages and might soon progress. This is a reality, given the change in the President of the United States, and we will discuss what the consequences of this will be. So share what you think here, your opinion on why the Ukrainians stopped attacking Crimea, or if they haven't stopped, if they will resume attacks. All of this is very important here for our editorial team to understand your perspective on this war. Anyone who wants to support our channel, we have our super sticker, super chat. You can contribute with Pix, which bypasses the club. There's the channel club. I always say this, folks. The channel club is the exclusive area of the ARTE Da Guerra channel, just for members. So we have 4 monthly live streams. That's 4 extra hours of video that you can access for just $7.99 per month. It's a great deal. It costs as much as a soda. For the price of a soda, you get 4 exclusive extra hours every month here on the ARTE Da Guerra channel. And don't forget to check out our course, School. I'll leave the intro here, the Russian Wars course. We'll be back shortly then. Always with responsibility and commitment. And faith in Brazil, folks. See you later. If you like this video, leave your like, share, and subscribe for more analyses.
E inscreva-se para mais análises. Bom, gente, na nossa lista de desejos que se encontra aqui na descrição do
Well, folks, in our wish list found in the video description, you will find many books about the war in Ukraine. I remind you that books delivered by Amazon's delivery system arrive quite quickly. But if you're from the generation that prefers a Kindle book, you can download it instantly. The prices are very good. The topics are quite up to date and will give you a very clear picture of what's happening in the war in Ukraine. And I remind you that every time you buy books and other items on Amazon, you are supporting the ARTE Da Guerra channel.
Vocês estão ajudando o canal Arte da Guerra.